I'm calling this one the UFO. Not an official name, but come on. It's clearly from another star, constellation, namely Orion or Orion. And yes, this now burnt out star of a watch brand has a 130-year history that somehow ends up in Swatch's lap. Buckle up, this one's a ride. The Big Bang for Orion happened in 1896, when Swiss-German duo Werner Brandt and Brandt Hofmann founded Orion in Biel. Back then, the logo carried 2 stars. They took over from Ferdinand Bachschmidt. During the transition, some pocket watches still had Bachschmidt on the dial but carried Orion's logo inside. By 1908, Orion's branding was officially trademarked, and by 1918 it became Uhrenfabrik Orion AG. Wristwatches hit the lineup in the roaring 20s, and Brandt and Hofmann stayed at the helm for 37 years, until André Vaucher, who was already engaged in his family watch business, more prominently known as Recta SA, apparently still had some spare time to take over Orion in 1933. Fast forward 6 years, Hans Kummer-Gügi from Bettlach stepped in. And if Bettlach and Kummer somehow rings a bell? Yep, that's the Ebauches Bettlach we talked about in my last Sakura video. Check that one out if you haven't already. Kummer-Gügi also owned Uhrenfabrik Welta, and he merged both names, Welta and Orion. Jump to 1969. Orion is sold to Basis Watch or Basis Watch M. Thommen of Technau, Switzerland. This was when they registered the logo you see on this watch. It was last renewed in 1989, though the watches themselves disappeared much earlier. The 70s had its fair share of intriguing Orion watches though, including a different dial version of this UFO or one with a more rectangular TV-shaped crystal and horizontally brushed case. And my favorite besides the UFOs? The Seal. And this one, which was just called Automatic. Great looking timepieces though. Basis Watch was founded in 1918 by A. Thommen, and they specialized in simple pin palette movements, a fitting home for Orion in the late 60s. When the Quartz crisis hit in the 1970s, Basis teamed up with Agon, Buler and Ferex to form the Economic Swiss Time Holding, or ESTH, which was their big plan to fight back against the flood of cheap watches from the Asian markets. Then in 1971, the ESTH merged into the SSIH. Yeah, I know, more acronyms. That's the Tissot Omega Lemania Group, basically. A few years later, SSIH merged with the ASUAG, a massive umbrella company made up of Ebauches SA, the General Watch Company, and yes, for example, Certina was in there too. Now here's where it gets wild. Both of these watch supergroups were actually products of an earlier Swiss watch crisis right after the World War I. And eventually, in 1983, under the leadership of Nicolas Hayek, they combined forces into one giant company. And by 1998, that company would officially be crowned Group, the watch empire we know today. So yes, this humble Orion is distantly related to the Swatch empire. The 70s definitely were a time of turmoil and change in the industry. And this watch stems from that exact era and final chapter of the whole brand itself. The oblong flying saucer shaped case caught my eye immediately, 41.5mm across, but it feels smaller thanks to the dramatic taper, 35mm at the brush top only, with a small 28mm dial under an acrylic box crystal. Height? Only 12.5mm, so definitely some UFO vibes. It's probably a cheaper chromed case, and the case back specifically discloses just that. It came on a simple 3-link aftermarket bracelet, but I haven't decided if I'll actually keep it. The silver sunburst dial sits deep in the case, framed by a blue internal bezel. You'd think these indices or hands were loomed, but nope, probably never were. The clean white and flat look is a bit of a giveaway. Maybe it was a cost-saving move? Inside you've got a manual wound basis caliber, ticking away at 18,000 beats per hour. It's got basic shock protection and that wonderfully loud old-school tick you only get from a pin palette movement. There's even a date complication, which is a nice touch, but no quickset here. So, a seemingly modest watch hides a 130-year history, with ties to Bettlach, a trip through multiple Watch Group mergers, and a final chapter in the shadow of the Quartz crisis. All wrapped up in one of the more unusual designs from the era, when the future of Swiss watchmaking was, well, written in the stars. Since this is an Orion, I'm giving it 3 stars. Before we wrap up this UFO, I'd like to leave you with a list of other noteworthy UFO watch models, namely the appropriately nicknamed Seiko UFO, the Zenit Disco Volante, the Longines Admiral Disco Volante, the Nevada Antarctic Diver, and also some of the Caribbeans. Thanks for venturing with me into the weird and wonderful of the vintage watch world. See you in the next one here on the Time Worn channel.